December carries a mystery that most people never touch. While the world rushes, frets, shops, and panics through the final days of the year, heaven moves quietly, waiting for one thing: your word. For December is not a month of chance. It is a month of culmination, correction, and creation. Think of this. Every unspoken blessing waits at the gates of your life, listening for the decree that permits it to enter. Most people never give that decree. They speak fear instead. Fear of bills, fear of endings, fear of the coming year. And then they wonder why December feels heavy instead of holy. Pause for a moment. Ask yourself, how many Decembers have passed with you braced for disappointment? You hope for a miracle, yet you rehearse the old dread. You desire joy, yet you prophesy stress. You forget that the closing month of the year has always been the time when blessings rush forward with unusual speed, but only for the one who commands them. Let me paint a scene that may be painfully familiar. You sit at the kitchen table as winter darkness settles outside, and you whisper, "I need something to change. I need help. I need a sign." Those whispers are sincere, but they hold no authority. Blessings do not respond to hope alone. Blessings respond to command. This is the ancient truth modern life hides. You do not beg the universe for December's blessings. You speak them into form. Let me give you the warning wrapped in love. If you drift through this month repeating the fears of last year, the next year will begin already burdened. Fear compounds. Doubt compounds. Unspoken expectation also compounds, and it builds a future you do not want. But if you will listen, truly listen, December can become the most divinely orchestrated month of your entire year. Imagine waking tomorrow, the cold air crisp, the light soft on the windows, and before touching the floor, you speak a decree of authority. December rises to bless me. All that belongs to my divine path appears now. From that moment, the atmosphere around your life shifts. Expectancy awakens. Guidance sharpens. Money moves. People remember you. Doors open with ease. Situations resolve that once felt immovable. This is not coincidence. This is spiritual law responding to spiritual command. Let me share a case from years ago. A woman once approached December with fear. Too many bills, too many broken promises, too many dreams that never manifested. She believed the month would be a burden. Instead, she learned one practice: bless your month before your month begins. She spoke, "December brings me protection, provision, and perfect guidance." Within days, unexpected income arrived. A strained relationship softened. An opportunity she had longed for finally appeared. She said, "It was as if December had been waiting for me to speak." December is waiting for you too. But let me show you the danger of ignoring this message. If you walk into these final weeks with no decree, if you let fear narrate your days, if you allow old patterns to speak louder than truth, you will experience December as the world experiences it. Rushed, anxious, depleted, chaotic. And your new year will inherit that vibration. But if you choose command, even one simple line, divine order fills my December with blessings seen and unseen. You will feel heaven rearranging the path beneath your feet. Let me take you into another scene. You stand by your window at night, watching the cold air fog the glass. You feel behind in finances, behind in purpose, behind in healing. December feels like judgment instead of joy. But then you remember, reality is not written by circumstances. Reality is written by decree. You speak aloud. What is mine appears now. December obeys my word. The atmosphere shifts, not because the world changed, but because you did. Listen as I reveal a truth so simple, that many miss it. Blessings cannot enter a home whose words forbid them. Fear forbids them. Complaining forbids them. Expecting disappointment forbids them. But one sentence of faith can open every gate. And here is the part modern life has taught you to forget. The spoken word carries heat. The spoken word carries direction. The spoken word carries divine authority. Blessings rush toward the one who speaks as a creator, not as a beggar. Let me share another testimony. A man, worn down by years of failure, reached December with no hope left. He said, "I'm just ready for this year to end." I told him gently, "If you end the year defeated, the next year will begin the same way." He learned to speak only one decree each morning. December completes my year in triumph. Before the month ended, he received a job offer far beyond anything he had dared to imagine. Your December can do this too. Now let me speak directly to your heart. You may feel tired, you may feel uncertain, you may feel as though blessings are for other people, but listen. Your December does not depend on your strength. It depends on your word. If you speak fear, December shrinks. If you speak faith, December flourishes. If you speak nothing, December defaults to whatever vibration you carried from the past. But if you speak with authority, if you speak as one who knows they are divinely guided, if you speak as one who expects goodness, December rushes to obey. Let this truth settle into your spirit. Blessings are not random, they are invited. So as this message continues, listen with the seriousness of someone who knows their month is being shaped in this very moment. Listen as one who refuses to end another year in fear. Listen as one who is ready to see divine order manifest in visible ways. Because December is here. It is listening. It is waiting for your command. And the universe, quiet, attentive, obedient, is ready to bless you the moment you speak your blessing into form. When I speak of December, I speak not of a month marked only by the turning of the calendar, nor of the cold winds that blow across the threshold of winter, nor of the world's restless haste as it rushes toward its celebrations and its endings. I speak of a sacred chamber in time, a month veiled in mystery, where heaven draws especially near, waiting not for man's fear, nor his anxious planning, nor his weary resignation, but for his word. For December is the keeper of a divine secret. It responds more swiftly than any other month to the decree of man's spoken intention. It is a spiritual crossroads where the unfinished matters of the year gather themselves like obedient servants, waiting for the final instruction. Most people, unaware of this holy arrangement, stumble into December carrying 11 months' worth of unspoken anxieties. They brace themselves for disappointment as though it were tradition. They speak of stress, of bills, of exhaustion, of some vague dread that the year will end as it began, without the blessing they hoped for. They do not realize that December listens. December takes every word as a command. December is not a passive observer. It is an active participant in the game of life, trained to obey the tone of man's speech. When man murmurs, December mirrors murmuring. When man commands, December rises in majesty. I once knew a woman who told me that December had always been a month of troubles for her. "I lose money," she said. "I quarrel with my relatives. Everything feels heavy." And I answered plainly, "My dear, December has simply been obeying you." She stared at me in astonishment, for the thought had never occurred to her that she had been training her December for years with her yearly lament. Here comes the worst month. Every sigh, every fearful projection, every declaration of scarcity had shaped her December like a sculptor shaping clay. when I taught her to reverse her decree, to speak instead. December rises to bless me. All that is mine now appears under grace. She practiced those words each morning with the earnestness of one seeking a lost key. Within days, blessings began to fall into her hands like gentle snowflakes. A forgotten debt repaid, an invitation long hoped for, a tender reconciliation with a family member. She said, "It is as though December had been waiting for me to speak all these years." Indeed, it had, for blessings wait at the gates of life until they are commanded. Man imagines that blessings arrive by chance, as if they wandered the world looking for a home. But blessings stand like radiant sentinels, listening for the decree that gives them permission to enter. They are obedient to the law of the spoken word, and they do not cross the threshold of one whose lips continually prophesy defeat. A blessing may hover near for years, ready to descend with its arms full of good, yet unable to approach so long as man speaks fear more loudly than truth. Fear locks the gates. Faith opens them. Every December, the universe becomes especially attentive, as though all unseen forces hold their breath, waiting to see whether man will crown the year with faith or collapse into the old rehearsal of dread. It is as though the heavens lean close, saying, "Speak, that we may act." The world may rush through its shopping, its closing of accounts, its frantic finishing of tasks, but heaven is unhurried, patient, listening for the quiet, authoritative voice that declares, "This December comes with blessings seen and unseen." That voice has more power than all the outer commotion of the world. There is a moment, perhaps you have known it, when you sit at the kitchen table late at night, the winter darkness pressing softly against the glass, and you whisper, "I need something to change." Those whispers are sincere, but they are not commands. They are wishes. Wishes do not impress the subconscious. Wishes do not summon the forces of divine order. Wishes drift like snowflakes that melt upon the tongue. But a decree, spoken in calm authority, sets the entire universe in motion. When you say, "December obeys my word," the month takes that word as law. I once taught a man who had endured so many disappointments that by the time December arrived each year, he felt spiritless, as though the year were closing its doors upon him. He said, "I am simply ready for this year to be over." I answered him gently, "If you end the year defeated, the next year will begin in the same defeat. The vibration of one month bleeds into the next." And then I taught him the simplest decree: "December completes my year in triumph." At first, he repeated it without conviction, for the old habit of defeat ran deep in him. But the subconscious is moved not by feeling, but by repetition, and as he persisted, the decree took root. One morning, he awoke with the sense that something was turning, though he could not explain it. Within weeks, he was offered a position he had once considered unattainable. He told me, half in wonder, "It feels as though December made up for the whole year." And I answered, "December did not make up for the year. Your word rewrote the year's ending." Many imagine that December arrives with its blessings predetermined, as though the month were an indifferent messenger carrying whatever was assigned. But December is not indifferent. December is responsive. December is a mirror. December is a spiritual servant whose only task is to arrange the final pattern of the year, according to the decree of the one who speaks. It gathers the threads of the months and weaves them into a final tapestry. If the threads are tangled with fear, the tapestry will reflect confusion. But if the threads are smoothed with faith, the tapestry glows with order. Listen carefully. December is the month most strongly governed by the subconscious. and the subconscious acts upon the last dominant idea it receives. If the subconscious hears, "I fear the bills," it produces channels of fear. If it hears, "I expect good," it produces channels of good. If it hears nothing but worry, it reproduces worry with embarrassing accuracy. And if it hears a decree of faith, stated boldly, repeated daily, the subconscious shapes December into a month of demonstration. There was once a woman who said to me, "December always drains me. Everything feels heavy, my finances, my energy, my relationships." I said to her, "Your December is obeying last year's decree, and the year before that, and the year before that. You have rehearsed heaviness, and the month has memorized your instructions." She had never considered that December had been trained by her. But the law does not care whether you speak knowingly or unknowingly. It fulfills whatever is spoken repeatedly. I told her to stand each morning before her window and speak, "December rises to bless me. I receive my good now." She said it felt strange at first, as though she were pretending, but the word does not rely on how natural it feels. It relies on law. Within a few days, old tensions dissolved. A stranger extended her unexpected kindness. A delayed payment arrived. A situation that had weighed upon her for months suddenly found resolution. She said, "December feels lighter." I replied, "It is not December that is lighter. It is your consciousness." People often expect December to bring miracles automatically, forgetting that miracles respond to expectation, not wishfulness. To wish is passive. To command is creative. When you command December to bless you, you stand in your rightful authority as a child of God. Just as the centurion said, "I am a man under authority, and I say to one, 'Go,' and he goeth," so your spoken word carries authority in the invisible. December hears it and goes. Expectancy is the magnet of December. When you wake upon the first morning of the month and say, "This December brings me good in expected and unexpected ways," you create a vacuum that heaven rushes to fill. And as your expectancy grows, others perceive a change in you. They sense a lightness. They respond to your calm. They notice you no longer speak the language of worry. Even your countenance becomes different. A brightness around the eyes, a composure in the voice, a serenity that cannot be shaken by the world's holiday frenzy. Let me show you clearly. When your consciousness changes, your December changes. A person who commands their December walks through the month as one surrounded by invisible attendants. Perfect timing appears. Money flows smoothly. Opportunities arise without strain. Relationships soften. The right idea presents itself at the right moment. It is as though the whole month has stepped between the soul and every disturbance, smoothing the way. And so, as we stand now in the first chamber of this teaching, I say to you, speak your December into its highest expression. Do not drift. Do not beg. Command. Say each morning, and say it with the quiet authority that heaven both recognizes and respects. December rises to bless me. All that belongs to my divine path appears now. Say it until something within you shifts, until the subconscious accepts the decree and the month begins to form itself around your word. For December is not shaped by wishing. December is shaped by command. And now, having laid the foundation of your December through the spoken decree, we move into the next great act of mastery, clearing the burdens of the year so that your December may bring its blessings unhindered. There is a peculiar habit among people to drag the entire weight of a year into its final month, as though December were a warehouse meant to store all unresolved worries, all unfinished business, all unspoken resentments, all disappointments carefully folded and packed away. They carry these invisible bundles with them, and then they wonder why December feels so heavy, why blessings seem slow to enter. Why the month closes not with triumph, but with exhaustion. But December cannot bring a man his good while his arms are full of burdens. A hand cannot receive a gift while it clings tightly to the remnants of fear. So I say to you with the utmost clarity, if you wish December to bless you, you must cast the burdens of the year upon the Christ within. You cannot carry them into this holy month. The law does not permit blessing to enter where fear is enthroned. You must set the burdens down. This is not an act of strain. It is an act of surrender. It is not a dismissal of responsibility. It is the recognition that responsibility is shared with divine intelligence, who knows your path far better than you do. I once counseled a woman who entered each December with a cloud of dread. She said, "I feel as though December judges me for everything I failed to accomplish." She carried her missed expectations, her disappointments, her financial worries, her strained relationships, all wrapped in a cloak of self-blame. December, obeying the vibration of her burden, felt like a month of heaviness. I told her, "My dear, December is not your judge, it is your servant, but it cannot serve while you carry burdens that belong to divine mind." I taught her the sacred decree. I cast this burden on the Christ within, and I go free. At first, she repeated it mechanically, as though reciting a line without comprehension. But after a few days, she felt a subtle lifting, as though an unseen hand had taken hold of one of the many weights she carried. Soon her heart grew lighter, and the people around her noticed the change. "You seem brighter," they said. "You seem calmer." And indeed she was, for she no longer bore the year alone. December responded to her new lightness and brought unexpected gifts. A reconciliation long, overdue, an offer of work, and a sum of money she had forgotten was owed to her. She said, "I thought December had changed." But December had only mirrored her release. Let me tell you plainly, every burden you carry becomes an instruction to December. If you carry fear, December molds itself around fear. If you carry resentment, December arranges circumstances that mirror that resentment. If you carry self-doubt, December will seem to deny you what is already yours. But if you carry nothing but trust, if you cast every burden upon the Christ within, December becomes a month of demonstration. There was a man I taught many years ago who carried into every December a bitter resentment toward a business associate. He said, "I dread seeing him at the year-end meeting." And so he did dread it, and the meeting always brought trouble, for resentment is magnetic. It summons the very conditions it laments. I said to him, "You cannot enter December with that resentment, for it will poison the entire month. Cast it on the Christ within and walk free." He resisted, for resentment is often cherished by the ego, as though it were a shield. But resentment harms only the one who holds it. At last he obeyed, saying each morning, "I cast this resentment on the Christ within, and I go free." When the meeting came, the man he had resented greeted him kindly, and the negotiations that followed were the smoothest they had ever conducted. He came to me astonished and said, "It was as though the whole situation changed overnight." But the situation had not changed. He had changed. When a person casts their burdens, others see it in unmistakable ways. Their face softens, their eyes brighten, their voice loses its tightness. They become approachable, pleasant, and calm. People who once snapped at them suddenly treat them with consideration. Doors that once stuck in their hinges begin to open. Even the atmosphere of their home becomes lighter, as though the very walls exhale relief. A burdened person weighs down a room. A burden-free person lifts it. You may feel your burdens are too many, too heavy, too tangled to be released by a simple phrase. But the burden does not resist release. It resists your belief that release is possible. Once you decide that the burden is not yours but God's, the subconscious loosens its grip. Every time you say, "I cast this burden on the Christ within," you are handing over a portion of the load. Do not concern yourself with how the burden will be handled. Divine Mind has infinite solutions. That is not your affair. Your part is simply to release. Let me offer another case. A woman had spent the whole year fearing that she would not be able to pay her December expenses. In November, she woke with dread each morning. I told her, "You are carrying the entire year's fear on your shoulders, and December cannot bless you while you cling to it." I gave her the decree. There is no loss in Divine Mind. Therefore, I cannot lose anything that belongs to me. She repeated it each time fear arose. On the very week she expected a deficit, she instead received an unexpected payment from a client she believed had forgotten her entirely. She wrote to me and said, "It was as though heaven rushed to fill the vacuum left by my fear." That is precisely what happens. When you cast fear out, the vacuum is immediately filled with faith's demonstration. Some burdens are not financial, but emotional. A woman once came to me burdened with sorrow over a relationship that had pulled her heart in many directions that year. She said, "Mrs. Shinn, I cannot stop thinking about what was said, what was done, what may happen next." I told her, "You are carrying a burden you are not designed to carry. Cast it upon the Christ within." She did not believe it could help, for the burden felt enormous to her. But she obeyed, saying the decree each time grief rose. One day, she felt herself release it so completely that she was surprised by the sudden peace that washed over her. She said, "The sorrow is not gone, but the grip is loosened." And I replied, "Now December can bless you, for you have made room." Let me say something gently yet firmly. If you enter December burdened, December will reflect your burdens. If you enter December free, December will reflect your freedom. The month cannot create anything except what the subconscious permits. And the subconscious obeys repetition, not circumstance. If you repeat fear, you enter a fearful month. If you repeat release, you enter a liberated month. When you cast your burdens, you become visibly different. Your step grows lighter, your breath deepens, your tone becomes harmonious. You look as though you have been relieved of something heavy, and you have. People say, "You seem more yourself," but in truth, you have become less of the fearful self and more of the divine self. Allow me to give you a simple practice that will prepare you perfectly for December's blessings. Each night in December, before retiring, say, "Every burden of this day I cast upon the Christ within. I go free, and my path is clear." Say it slowly, with sincerity. Imagine each worry dissolving like frost beneath the morning sun. Then rest, knowing you have handed the burdens to a power infinitely more capable than yourself. As your burdens fall away, intuition rises to the surface like a lamp emerging from fog. And so the next great step in mastering December is learning to walk the magic path of intuition. For guidance is never clearer than in this sacred month. When a man has cast his burdens and cleansed the inner corridors of his mind, intuition emerges as naturally as a spring bubbling up from newly loosened earth. For intuition is not the voice of imagination, nor the whisper of emotion, nor the suggestion of reason. It is the direct guidance of spirit. And in December, when the year is drawing to its close and the invisible forces are weaving together the final threads, intuition speaks with unusual clarity. It is December's greatest gift to the one who listens. While the world becomes noisier, hurried, frantic with preparation and concerns, intuition grows quieter, stronger, more insistent, as though heaven leans close and says, "Hear me now, for I would lead you into your good before the year ends." Many people believe they lack intuition, when in truth, they simply have not cleared enough room for it to be heard. Fear drowns it out. Worry muffles it. Reason argues with it. Memory contradicts it. But when fear is cast upon the Christ within, intuition rises like a star over a still winter field. It glows without effort. It directs without pressure. It reveals without noise. It does not demand attention. It attracts it. And in December, intuition becomes a lantern on the path, showing not the whole road, but the next sure step, which is all you need. I once taught a woman who dreaded December because she always felt lost at its approach. She said, "I do not know what the next year wants of me. I feel as though I am walking in fog." I told her, "You are not expected to see the entire road. You are expected only to follow the lamp." I taught her the decree, "Infinite Spirit, reveal my December path. I hear clearly, I obey instantly." She repeated it each morning. On the third day, she felt impressed to tidy her workspace thoroughly, though it seemed an odd instruction. She obeyed. Within hours, she received a message from a person she had not spoken to in years, someone who offered her a connection that opened the way into new employment. She said, "It feels as though the guidance began with something so small, yet it led to everything." That is the nature of intuition. It begins with the insignificant and leads to the magnificent. Intuition in December is like the star that guided the wise men, steady, silent, unwavering. It does not shout, it shines. It draws you toward your good with a magnetism felt only in the quiet chambers of your heart. You will know the voice of intuition in December, not by its volume, but by its texture. It brings peace. It brings clarity. It brings a gentle sense of rightness. If an impulse feels hurried, pressured, anxious, or cloudy, it is not intuition. Spirit never drives. Spirit leads. The shepherd does not chase the sheep. He walks before them. Consider the shepherds in the fields on the night of the great announcement. They were not in the city. They were in the stillness. And into that quiet, the angel spoke. So it is in December. The message comes to the quieted mind. When you release your burdens, even the faintest whisper becomes audible. A thought like, "Write this letter," or "Visit this place," or "Speak kindly to that person," may appear trivial, yet these small whispers often lead to the greatest blessings. Let me give you a case that illustrates this perfectly. A man I taught felt a nudge early in December to walk a particular route to work instead of his usual one. It made no sense, and his reason argued against it. Yet the nudge persisted like a melody playing softly in the mind. He obeyed. As he walked, he passed a small shop he had never noticed. In its window was a modest sign seeking assistance in an area where he possessed quiet skill. Curious, he inquired. That inquiry led to part-time work that soon grew into a role perfectly suited to his talents. He said, "It was as though my good was waiting for me on that street." And indeed it was. Intuition led him straight to it. You must understand that intuition does not reveal the full plan at once. It reveals only the step that can be taken now. A person often rejects intuition because it seems too small to matter. But when you dismiss the small step, you block the large one. Consider Elijah being led to the brook Cherith. He was not told the entire story. He was told only the first direction. Divine guidance is always given in increments. The next instruction arrives only when the first one is obeyed. So if you feel a slight inner urging in December, especially in this month, heed it. It is likely the beginning of a chain of events designed to bring you into your good before the year closes. Let me share a story of a young woman who had been praying for reconciliation with a family member. December arrived, and she felt an inner prompting. Write the letter now. She hesitated, for she had grown used to waiting, hoping the other person would act first. But the prompting grew more persistent, yet still gentle. She obeyed. She wrote with sincerity, offering no accusation, only clarity and goodwill. To her astonishment, a reply came within 2 days, an outpouring of warmth and apology. They spoke by telephone the next evening, and the relationship was restored before Christmas Eve. She said to me, "I had been waiting for months, but December brought guidance that resolved everything." For December often brings the culmination of long-sought answers when man obeys intuition. Others will notice when you begin following the magic path. They will say you seem more grounded, more certain, more peaceful. They may say your timing appears uncanny. You arrive at the right place at the right moment. You meet the right person without planning. Opportunities seem to fall into your hands, but these are not coincidences. They are the footprints of intuition. People are drawn to a person who walks in divine timing. Your presence will give others confidence, and they will seek your counsel without knowing why. Your home will feel more orderly. Your work will unfold with ease. Even delays will reveal themselves to be blessings. For intuition governs not only movement, but stillness. Here are the affirmations that strengthen your intuitive faculties in December. Infinite Spirit, reveal the next step. I walk in a lighted way. My intuition is God's voice. I hear and obey. Repeat them until the inner ear grows accustomed to listening. You will find that intuition becomes not an occasional visitor, but a continual companion. Let us consider another story. A woman had long prayed for financial relief. Early in December, she felt impressed to sort through her belongings and give away several items she no longer needed. This did not appear connected to her financial concerns, yet the prompting was unmistakable. She obeyed, though she felt foolish at first. The very next week, an acquaintance she had blessed with one of the gifts introduced her to someone who needed a service she could provide. This encounter led to prosperous work that carried her into the new year with ease. She told me, "It was the smallest leading, yet it unlocked everything." I answered, "Spirit required your obedience, not your understanding." Do not attempt to analyze intuition. Analysis is the enemy of obedience. Simply ask, does this bring peace? If yes, follow. If no, wait. Peace is the signature of divine instruction. As you walk the intuitive path in December, you will find a new steadiness emerging in you. You will not feel pulled by the world's rush, nor swayed by its panic. You will move with the certainty of one who knows the unseen world moves ahead of them, preparing their way. Others will ask how you manage to remain so calm. They will comment on your glow. But it is not calmness. They are witnessing alignment. It is not glow. They are witnessing guidance. There comes a moment in every soul's journey, though few recognize it, when the entire year gathers itself like a great wave, preparing to carry the individual toward the shores of his divine design. And this moment, more often than not, arrives in December. For divine design is not a distant ideal, nor a privilege granted to a chosen few. It is the perfect pattern of your life held forever in divine mind, awaiting only your recognition and your decree. It contains your rightful work, your rightful relationships, your rightful home, your rightful health, your rightful wealth. Everything that belongs to you by divine right and cannot be taken from you except by your own disbelief. Most people believe that their best opportunities lie in the new year, as though January were the month reserved for fresh beginnings. But spiritually, December is the true month of revelation. When the noise of the world swells, when the days grow short and the nights quiet, the veil between the visible and invisible thins. Guidance becomes clearer. The path ahead glows faintly with promise, and if one listens, one may hear the gentle rustling of divine design making itself known. I once taught a woman who desperately wanted to know her purpose. For years she had prayed, "Show me my right work," yet nothing changed. As December arrived, she felt more confused than ever. I told her, "Your purpose cannot be revealed to a mind cluttered with fear. Divine design requires room to unfold." I instructed her to speak daily, "Let the divine design of my life now come to pass." Something in her voice steadied as she repeated it. Within days, she felt an urge, a deep knowing, that she must reorganize her home office. As she cleared a drawer, she found a forgotten sketchbook filled with drawings she had done as a young woman. A warmth rose within her. She began drawing again, quietly, shyly, as though awakening an old friend. That drawing reopened doors to a creative path she had abandoned for 20 years. By mid-December, she received an invitation to contribute to a small exhibition. By January, she had commissions. "It feels," she told me, "as though my life waited for me to remember who I was." And I answered, "It did. Divine design cannot impose itself. It must be invited." Many assume that divine design arrives through dramatic events, a sudden revelation, a lightning bolt of inspiration. But in truth, it arrives softly, naturally, in perfect step with your readiness. A simple desire, a quiet nudge, a door no longer feeling as though it fits, a room that suddenly feels too small for the soul that has outgrown it. Divine design is never forced. It unfolds, and December, with its sacred stillness, often reveals the next piece of the pattern. Consider another story. A man I taught had worked faithfully in the same position for many years. He desired greater expression, but felt chained by duty and fear of change. Each December he muttered, "Another year gone, and I am still in the same place." I told him, "You are not in the same place. Your consciousness has moved, but your speech has not." I gave him the decree. "I have a wonderful work in a wonderful way. I give wonderful service for wonderful pay." He repeated it morning and night throughout December. Soon, he sensed that his current work no longer matched his inner vibration. He did not know the next step, but intuition whispered, "Make room." So he cleared his desk, reorganized his files, and even donated several items he no longer needed. Within days, his employer approached him unexpectedly with a new role, one that aligned perfectly with his talents. He came to me saying, "It felt as though the promotion fell out of heaven." But promotions never fall out of heaven. They rise out of consciousness. Let me speak plainly. Your divine design is not hidden from you. You are hidden from it by your fears, your self-doubts, and your small expectations. When you dissolve these inner obscurations, especially in December, your right place reveals itself like a painting behind a lifted curtain. It comes into view not through effort, but through alignment. Others will see the unfolding of your divine design even before you do. They will remark upon your new confidence, your calm certainty, your harmonious energy. They will sense that something has clicked in you, though They may not be able to articulate it. A person in their divine design carries an unmistakable presence. They enter a room differently. They speak differently. They stand differently. Opportunities gravitate toward them. People trust them. Even adversities soften before them, for they walk in a path that is theirs by spiritual appointment. Let me tell you a story from years ago. A woman longed for companionship, but believed the door to her heart had closed. One December, she felt guided to set an extra place at her table each evening, an act of faith representing the arrival of her divine companion. It felt foolish to her at first, but she obeyed. One evening, a friend visited unexpectedly and noticed the place set. "Expecting someone?" she asked. The woman, embarrassed, explained her practice. The friend, touched by the sincerity of her faith, later introduced her to a gentleman whose companionship proved loving and lasting. They met on December 29th. This is how divine design often works. It uses small acts of faith to open great doors. Another woman desired a home that better suited her growing family. She browsed for years, growing discouraged. But one December, after casting her worries upon the Christ within, she felt impressed to drive down a particular street she rarely visited. She obeyed, and there she saw a small house with a for sale sign that had been placed only moments earlier. The house was perfect, the timing flawless. She said, "It felt as though heaven had written my name on its door." And indeed, heaven had prepared it for her the moment she prepared her consciousness to receive it. The principles of divine design are simple. What is yours by divine right cannot be kept from you. What is not yours by divine right cannot satisfy you. Your right place, right work, right companions, right supply appear when you invite them. December is the month when the invitation is most easily delivered. Speak boldly. Let the divine design of my life now come to pass. I am in my right place, doing the right thing, with the right people, for the right compensation. Repeat it until your subconscious accepts it as truth. Repeat it until the atmosphere around you changes. Repeat it until you feel yourself settling into a deeper alignment. As divine design begins to form around you, it becomes essential to master the next spiritual law. The law of the spoken word, the boomerang law, the creative decree that shapes December more swiftly than any other month. For divine design cannot survive contradictory speech. You cannot call forth your right place with one breath and undermine it with the next. There is no tool given to man more powerful, more swift, more exact in its operation than the spoken word. Thought shapes the mold, but word pours the molten substance of creation into it. And December, more than any other month, responds with breathtaking speed to the word that is spoken with conviction. For December is the month of spiritual return, the month when the year hastens to bring back to you whatever you have planted with your speech. Every decree you have uttered, whether deliberately or carelessly, circles back like a homing bird seeking its roost. It does not matter whether the decree was made 11 months ago or 11 minutes ago. December is the magnifying glass that enlarges the vibration you have most consistently spoken. People are often puzzled when the last month of the year seems to echo the themes of the months that came before it. They say, "Why does December always bring this same trouble?" Or, "Why does this month feel so intense?" I tell them gently, because December brings home the year's harvest. Whatever you have planted with your words must return to you in some form before the year closes. This is not punishment. It is not judgment. It is the fulfillment of law. Your words, spoken throughout the year, have traced invisible patterns in your affairs, and December is the month when those patterns crystallize. Let us consider the boomerang law, the ancient principle that what man sends out in word or deed returns to him multiplied. Many imagine this law to be mystical or obscure, yet it is perfectly simple. If you send out words of fear, they return as fearful conditions. If you send out words of faith, they return as faithful demonstrations. If you send out words of complaint, they return as more to complain about. And if you send out words of praise and expectancy, they return as blessings that hasten to fulfill your decree. I once counseled a man who had the habit of making jokes about misfortune. He would say, "If anything can go wrong in December, it will go wrong for me." He meant no harm. He merely sought attention and laughter. But the law is indifferent to his intentions. His subconscious took him at his word and arranged his affairs accordingly. He found himself meeting delays, difficulties, and unexpected expenses each December with embarrassing regularity. When he came to me bewildered by his repeated December troubles, I said, "Your words have been writing your month with perfect accuracy." I taught him to say instead, "December returns my good in multiplied ways." He scoffed at first, ashamed of the simplicity of the remedy. But when he obeyed, when he spoke the decree faithfully each morning, the entire vibration of his month changed. Unexpected opportunities arose, financial matters resolved, and relationships softened. He said, "It feels as though I stepped into a different December." And I replied, "You did. Your new December is the child of your new decree." Another woman I taught came to me with great anxiety at the beginning of December. She worked in a shop, and the holiday rush always left her exhausted and irritable. She said, "People are rude, the days are long, the stress is unbearable." Her words had planted a field of thorns, and each December faithfully grew those thorns. I told her, "You must place a watchman at the gate of your lips. Speak not of what you dread, but of what you desire. Try this. I expect pleasant surprises. I am divinely protected from all irritation." She looked doubtful, but agreed to try. Within a week, she reported that the atmosphere of the shop felt lighter. Customers treated her with unusual courtesy. Her manager complimented her. Even the long hours felt easier. She said, "It seems impossible that words could create this. But nothing is more possible. Nothing is more lawful." When you begin guarding your speech, the subconscious responds with remarkable loyalty. It listens, it obeys, it arranges. Others around you sense the change without knowing its cause. A person who speaks consciously carries a certain authority. Their words do not drift like feathers, but land like arrows, straight, purposeful, powerful. People look at them differently. They speak with more care. They trust their suggestions. They take their presence seriously. The shift may be subtle at first, but it grows. You become known as someone whose words carry weight, for they are backed by spiritual law. Let me tell you of a woman who reversed her entire December with a single decree. She had always expected financial hardship at the end of the year. Each December she would say, "I will barely scrape through." And so she did, scrape, strain, and worry. When she finally understood the boomerang law, she changed her decree to, "Every channel of good opens for me now. December brings unexpected supply." She repeated this every morning. Within days, she received a gift from a relative she had not heard from in years. A bill she feared was reduced. A client sent her a payment ahead of schedule. She told me, "It feels as though my words went ahead and prepared the way." And indeed they did. Let me show you the mechanics behind this transformation. Your spoken word is not merely sound, it is instruction. The subconscious takes your words as literal commands. When you say, "I can't afford that," the subconscious responds, Very well. Let us ensure she cannot. When you say, people always disappoint me, the subconscious arranges disappointment. But when you say, everything moves in my favor, the subconscious begins seeking ways to make that true. When you say, December blesses me in expected and unexpected ways, the subconscious becomes a silent worker, arranging circumstances, conversations, and opportunities that align with your decree. Here are the affirmations that shape December with precision. My word is law unto my December. Every decree returns multiplied in good. I speak blessings, and blessings obey. Repeat them. Repeat them when your voice is strong. Repeat them when your voice trembles. Repeat them when circumstances contradict them. For repetition is the chisel that sculpts the subconscious. Say them until your inner world shifts and your outer world follows. Let me give you another image. Imagine your words as lanterns hung along the dark path of December. Each decree places a light on the road, guiding your steps, repelling fear, illuminating opportunities that would otherwise remain hidden. Without these lanterns, you wander blindly. With them, you walk confidently, even when you cannot see the entire way. Words are also builders, silent craftsmen who construct the architecture of your month. Every phrase is a brick. Every sentence is a beam. A careless word may place a crooked board in the structure, which later becomes a difficulty. But a deliberate, faithful word builds a palace of demonstration. The subconscious builds exactly according to your instructions, so give good instructions. And now that you understand the power of your speech, you are prepared for one of the greatest mysteries of December. The sudden arrival of unexpected supply. The miracles, the provisions, the 11th hour blessings that often come rushing in when man speaks the right word. There is a peculiar magic in the way supply moves in December. A magic so subtle and yet so swift that many mistake it for coincidence or seasonal generosity. But nothing is coincidence in a universe governed by spiritual law. December is the month when channels long obstructed begin to flow, when delayed blessings hasten to fulfill their purpose, when provision appears through avenues that reason never considered. And this is not because December is inherently charitable, but because man's consciousness becomes especially receptive at the close of the year. The heart softens, the mind grows reflective, old fears loosen, hope stirs, and in this softened state, spiritual supply finds a way through. You must understand, supply does not come from the outer world. It comes from divine mind alone and merely takes the form of whatever channel is open in your consciousness. A job, a gift, a refund, an unexpected opportunity, these are not the source. They are the channels. And if one channel closes, another opens with perfect reliability, provided man does not close the gate of his consciousness through fear. I once taught a woman who entered each December dreading the expenses that accompanied it. She counted her money with trembling fingers and spoke of lack at every opportunity. Her December obeyed her fears with dreadful precision. One year, when she was especially distressed, I told her, "You must stop treating money as your master. Money is your servant. Bless it, and it will bless you." I taught her the decree. My purse is always full. The magic purse of the spirit cannot be depleted. She resisted at first, for the purse in her hand felt painfully empty. But I reminded her that the purse of spirit is never empty, and that the purse in her hand merely reflects the purse in her mind. She repeated the decree each morning. Something began to shift. Quietly, inwardly. Her fear lessened. Her expectation rose. And then the outer world responded. She received a small gift early in the month. A bill arrived lower than expected. A friend returned money borrowed years before. A new opportunity to earn appeared, simple and effortless. She said, "It feels as though my purse awoke." But it was her consciousness that awoke, and the purse merely mirrored the awakening. Let me tell you another story. A man who had struggled financially for years came to me in despair one December. He said, "Mrs. Shinn, I do not know how I will make it through this month." I answered calmly, "You do not need to know. Divine Mind knows, and Divine Mind provides." I gave him the decree. There is no loss in Divine Mind. All that is mine now appears. He repeated it with the earnestness of one clinging to a lifeline. Within days, a long-forgotten opportunity resurfaced, a job he had once applied for months prior. He was offered the position immediately, with pay far exceeding his expectations. He said, "I do not understand how it came so suddenly." I told him, "Nothing comes suddenly. Good appears the moment fear is dismissed. Supply is always waiting. It surrounds you like air surrounds a bird. But fear closes the wings, and the bird forgets it can fly. When fear is cast upon the Christ within, the wings open, and supply flows with natural ease. Let me show you the spiritual mechanics behind this. Your subconscious is like a great reservoir. When fear dominates, the gates remain closed. Supply gathers behind them, unable to enter. But when you speak words of faith, "My supply is immediate and endless," the gates open, and everything needed rushes forth. The outer world rearranges itself to match the new expectation. A letter arrives, a person remembers you, a door you thought locked swings open, a new channel appears. Nothing is forced. All is graceful. Others often notice this change in you even before you recognize it yourself. They perceive a new ease in your demeanor. They feel a softness in your voice, a calm in your presence. You no longer brace against life, you welcome it. People respond to this shift. They extend kindness, they offer assistance, they collaborate willingly. The world opens to a consciousness that has opened to itself. Let me give you a picture. Imagine that your supply is like a river frozen by the chill of fear. Throughout the year, you may have chipped away at the ice with hope, with occasional prayer, with fleeting moments of faith. But in December, if you speak the right word, the ice thaws all at once. The river begins to move, and once it moves, it carries blessings from places you cannot see. That is why December often brings 11th hour miracles. The supply was always there. The thaw simply needed the warmth of a decree. Here are the affirmations that open the gates of December supply. Every channel of good opens for me now. My supply is immediate and endless. The magic purse of the Spirit cannot be depleted. What is mine by divine right now appears under grace. Speak them not timidly, but with the certainty of one who knows that Divine Mind cannot fail. Speak them until your breath grows deeper, your shoulders relax, your heart feels lighter. Speak them until you believe them, until belief becomes knowing. Let me share one final December miracle. A student of mine had a long-standing debt that troubled her deeply. She feared that the creditor would demand payment in December, when she felt least able to give it. I told her, "Fear summons the very thing it dreads. Speak instead. This matter is divinely resolved. I see harmony where I once saw conflict." She obeyed. The creditor contacted her, but not to demand payment, instead to offer a reduced settlement, payable in small installments. The burden that had tormented her all year dissolved in a single conversation. She said, "It feels like divine intervention," and I answered, "It is divine order fulfilling your decree." Now that you have learned to command the supply of December, We approach the final and highest chamber of this teaching, entering the promised December, where blessings not only appear, but multiply, and where you yourself become the kind of person whom blessings recognize and hasten to obey. There comes a sacred moment in every seeker's path when all the scattered threads of the year begin to pull together. Intuition clarifies, burdens fall away, supply flows, the spoken word becomes law, and the individual stands at the entrance of what I call the promised December. It is not a place on the map, nor a season marked only by winter's chill, but a spiritual atmosphere, a radiance that surrounds a person who has aligned their thoughts, words, and expectations with divine law. When you enter the promised December, blessings do not merely visit, they abide. Guidance does not merely whisper, it leads. Opportunities do not merely appear, they gather. You become a magnet to your own good. But I tell you plainly, the promised December is not reached by wishing. It is reached by identity. The moment you begin to think, speak, and act as one who is divinely guided, divinely supplied, and divinely protected, the entire universe responds to you as such. Blessings hurry toward the one who carries the atmosphere of expectancy. They obey the one whose voice carries the ring of authority. They surround the one who walks as though the invisible were more real than the visible. The promised December is entered not by effort, but by becoming. I once taught a man who had spent years ending each December in defeat. Every year he would declare, "I'll just be glad when it's over," and the year, faithful to his decree, ended poorly. When he came to me utterly discouraged one December, I said, "You keep ending the year as a beggar when you are meant to end it as a prince." He looked, startled, as though no one had ever spoken to him in such terms. I taught him the decree. December completes my year in victory. I instructed him to speak it every morning before rising. At first, he said it mechanically, as though reciting lines of a play without knowing their meaning. But repetition softened the resistance. By mid-month, he found himself waking with a sense of anticipation he could not explain. Then things began to move, small, then large, then unmistakable. A financial matter that had plagued him for months was resolved in his favor. A person who had once dismissed him now sought his counsel. A new opportunity appeared unexpectedly, one that carried him into the next year with confidence. He told me, "I have never felt so supported," and I said, "You have always been supported. You have simply awakened to it." This is the identity of the promised December, the one who knows that divine order is shaping every hour. Your old identity, the one who struggled, feared, doubted, apologized for wanting more, cannot enter this atmosphere. Only the identity that knows itself as the instrument of divine design may pass through the gate. You must speak, think, and walk as one who is worthy of blessing. Not with pride, but with spiritual certainty. Not with self-importance, but with divine poise. Others will see this identity shift even before you do. They will notice a brightness around you, a serenity in your voice, a calm that does not waver. They will feel comfortable in your presence, trusting your decisions, valuing your counsel, admiring your steadiness. You may hear comments such as, "You seem so sure lately," or "There is something different about you," or "I feel better when you are in the room." These outer signs reveal an inner transformation. You have become the kind of person that December obeys. Let me give you an image to hold. Imagine yourself standing in a vast hall of light, the doors of heaven opening one by one as you speak your decree. Not because you are earning them, but because you are allowing them. Blessings that once felt far away now gather around you like a warm cloak. Supply moves in Without hesitation, people remember you for good reasons. Situations that once brought dread now unfold with simple elegance. You walk through the month as one accompanied by unseen helpers. This is not imagination. It is spiritual fact clothed in imagery. I once counseled a young woman who said, "Mrs. Shinn, I cannot imagine people seeing me differently. I feel invisible." I replied, "Then you have been speaking invisibility over yourself. Speak instead. I radiate confidence and favor. All doors open to me." She practiced it daily. Soon, people who had overlooked her for years began noticing her contributions. She received compliments, invitations, unexpected kindnesses. "It is as though I have stepped out of the shadows," she said. But she had not stepped out of the shadows. She had commanded the shadows to disperse. When you walk in your promised December, you carry yourself differently. Not hurried, not anxious, not shrinking from life. You walk with a divine assurance, knowing that every step is guided, every need supplied, every obstacle dissolved. And because you carry this assurance, your outer world reflects it instantly. People perceive you as trustworthy, capable, blessed. They offer you opportunities not out of pity, but out of recognition. Recognition of the divine magnetism you now embody. Let me tell you of a final case. A man weighed down by countless disappointments approached December as though it were a battlefield. "I just want this year to end," he told me. I replied, "If you end defeated, you begin defeated. End with triumph, and you begin with authority." I taught him to declare, "Every day of my December obeys divine order." He said it as though lighting candles in a dark room. One by one, the candles grew brighter. A lost object returned. A business negotiation unexpectedly favored him. A strained relationship eased with no effort on his part. By New Year's Eve, he told me, "I feel like a different man." And he was, for December had remade him from the inside out. Now let us gather the essence of all these teachings and seal them upon your consciousness. Speak this with me now, not timidly, not as one hoping, but as one commanding. The walls of lack and delay now crumble away, and I enter my promised December under grace and in perfect ways. Say it until you feel a quiver of truth within. Say it until your heart grows quiet. Say it until the invisible world stirs in response. Say it until December opens like a gate before you. For December is listening, it is waiting, and when you speak with authority, December obeys.